Hey guys, sorry about that.
No problem. Derek, we're just about to go live.
Great.
All right. I believe we are live now and ready to go. So welcome everybody to yet another Sunday afternoon stream. I'm really excited to be here today and to be hosting our friends from Air Canada, going over much of the Air Canada digital experience and everything else that they've got planned going forward as travel recovers over the end of 2021 and into 2022. This is going to be, the second time we're hosting Air Canada folks here on the stream. Last time we had Mark Nasr and Scott, and this time we've got Mark, Derek Whitworth, and Pritesh Gandhi here on the stream today. So I thought we would begin with a series of quick introductions just to get people familiar with Mark, Derek, and Pritesh. And it would be great to, for all of you to get to know them a little bit. So maybe in that order, Mark, if you could kick us off with some introductions as to who you are, your role at Air Canada, and your responsibilities.
Oh, there we go. I owe 1,000 airplane points to a charity of Derek's choice. Well, good afternoon and good evening, everyone. And Ricky, thank you so much for having us, as always. I'm Mark Nasr. I'm the Senior Vice President of Products, Marketing, and E-commerce for Air Canada. I'm also responsible for the Aeroplan division.
Awesome. So yeah, Mark, you were head of Aeroplan, and now your responsibilities have expanded. Is that correct, to other aspects of the Air Canada experience?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right, Derek, yourself?
Yeah, so hi everyone. Derek Whitworth. My title is Managing Director, Marketing and Loyalty Optimization. And really what that comes down to is I look after kind of the day-to-day operations of the Aeroplan program, but a number of other components of our program. So my team looks after our marketing operations. So whenever you get an email from us, my team is looking after that. Our media desk, basically how we plan all of our promotional activities between Air Canada and Aeroplan as well, and a couple of other functions too. So we look after a number of topics that I think people on this live stream are going to be interested in.
Awesome. And I'm really, really excited to get into all of those. All right, finally, Pritesh, yourself, this is your first time appearing on a stream. Why don't you, introduce yourself to everybody and let people know your responsibilities over at AC.
Thank you, Ricky. Good evening, everybody. My name is Pritesh. I'll go with Mark and Derek. I'll start off with my title first. Senior Director of E-commerce Digital Platforms. What does that mean? It's basically all the digital channels which are customer facing and the digital experiences that both our revenue customers that do cash bookings, as well as our Aeroplan customers that do redemption, and including our servicing of those bookings as well. So hello, everyone. Great to be here tonight.
Perfect. So thank you all for the introductions, and it's great to have you on the stream. Once again, as per usual, it's super kind of all of you to be, taking time out of your Sunday evenings to be on the stream here. So yeah, thanks for making the time. To give the audience here a little bit of an insight as to kind of the plans for today's conversation. Really, it's going to be focused on, especially since we have Pritesh with us today, we want to focus a little bit on the digital experience with Air Canada, on the websites, on the mobile app, on the mobile websites, what kinds of things we can expect for the near future and long-term future as we continue to start booking travel once again in the upcoming years. Along with the digital experience, we'll also touch upon Air Canada's perspective from within the industry, as well as the personal perspectives of these three gentlemen here about the recovery of travel and what the industry is, what they think is going to shape up to look like over the coming years, and kind of the trends that people within the industry are keeping their eyes on. I think that'll be really interesting for all of us to dig into as well. Since Mark got a new job, starting to oversee product and lounges as well, onboard and ground products, obviously, I'd also like to spend a little bit of time delving into those side of things. What can we expect from Air Canada from a fleet perspective, from a lounge perspective, from a onboard experience perspective, especially also, for elite members, let's say, as we go forward into, let's say, this newer generation of Air Canada, trying out new things as we recover from the pandemic. And of course, lastly, we'll also touch upon loyalty side, Aeroplan stuff, a little bit of that, we'll get into it. But I'd like to save the bulk of that discussion with Aeroplan and with the loyalty side for when Derek Whitworth joins us at the September 25th, 2021 Prince of Travel signature event in Vancouver. I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited to have Derek and, of course, the big boss, Scott O'Leary, over there to chat more in detail about Aeroplan and all of the upcoming plans for the upcoming years in terms of what we can expect on the loyalty side. So today we'll get into a few questions, touch upon it, but we'll save most of that for September 25th. We are just by the way, as a bit of a shameless plug here, we're at about 75% capacity for that event. So if you're interested in getting your tickets, then be sure to take action and make your purchase as soon as possible. And yeah, with that,
I hear Ricky overbooks. So
I learn from the best, learn from the most guilty. All right. Yeah, so I think, on that note, we have a lot of topics that we'd like to cover. I want to start with the digital experience. And I think given the audience here, right, even though we'd like to save Aeroplan for the event, but we're all interested in Aeroplan, we're all interested in booking stuff with our points. I think it's a natural starting point for us to talk about the timeline for existing digital experience features that were kind of promised by your team, right, for booking Aeroplan stuff. And even Ian here in the chat has mentioned, when are we getting the ability to book multi-city trips on the Air Canada website for Aeroplan with points? So why don't we get a bit of an update on the various phases of digital stuff that we know are coming, such as a calendar search. I recently saw some calendar search, weekly calendar search popping up on the website, but it seems to be inconsistent, might be in a testing phase, I sense, as well as the multi-stop tool, and eventually maybe even the custom routing tool that lets us book those 6-bound, 16-segment round-the-world trips that we all dream of quite easily.
Sure. Well, I'll without further ado, I'll pass it on to Derek and Pritesh and to talk about maybe Derek, you want to give like an overview of the approach, and Pritesh, you could talk a little bit about some of the rollout dates that we're anticipating. And
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, maybe I'll start kind of at a higher macro level. So and this will kind of feed into some of the things Pritesh is going to talk about later on. But I think everyone can appreciate with the current travel environment, there's a lot of evolving priorities that are going on within Air Canada and frankly across the industry at the moment. So I think what you can expect to see from us is us emphasizing things that are going to enable self-service more readily for especially for Aeroplan members. So with that in mind, I'll let Pritesh kind of talk about some of the dates, but our stopover capability, I can tell you, I sit in at least one meeting a week on this on that topic, as well as one thing that I don't think Ricky, you mentioned, but it's something very much on our radar screen right now is enabling changes online as well. So obviously that's available in the revenue path, but that is a priority for us too, so that obviously members don't have to call in and deal with that, deal with agents. Said they can self-serve and take care of these things by themselves. And with that in mind, that means that obviously we're going to be implementing some calendar features, as you alluded to, but some of the kind of broader calendar features that we want to implement are going to be on a bit of a longer time horizon moving into 2022. But I'll maybe head it over to PG, and he can speak a little bit about kind of the sequencing of some of this stuff, because his team is working very, very hard on this at the moment.
Thanks, Derek. Maybe we'll start off with a couple of features that I know I've been reading up the chat a bit as well, and those questions are coming up. So Ricky, you were right that we're progressively releasing the calendar feature, and you'll notice that the domestic calendar is live, and some of you will see that also the transporter is on and off, and we've been testing it out. And it should follow through with international as well. And I would say in September, in just a couple to a few weeks, but it'll be in September. So we should be able to get all of the markets in by September. Something that I'll save the calendar by cabin for just a second, because I want to talk about maybe multi-city or the stopover program. The stopover program, a simple version of that, we're looking to get it live really early of next year. And it should come in really early, like I said, into 2022. Followed by something that Derek mentioned, which is probably haven't seen here, is the change exchange. And it is one of the features that is quite heavily requested by a lot of people, because we see that from customers calling the contact center. So that has been prioritized ahead of calendar by cabin. And we do expect to do that soon, right after we deliver the two products that we talked about, the simple stopover followed by the change exchange. Am I missing anything else, Derek, in the list?
Well, I think there's the work on the calendar by cabin that you alluded to, but yes. As I mentioned, that's probably going to come a little bit. When I say later on, it's probably a kind of a Q1, Q2 activity in 2022. Again, because we prioritize things that really enable people to self-serve.
Awesome. So the sense I get is, yeah, definitely priority is important, prioritization. Here at Prince of Travel, we also do tech projects of our own, so I totally understand the need to kind of make things, based on a priority order. It sounds like, yeah, early 2022, we can expect that simple stopover, as in a one-way bound with a stopover along the way. That should start pricing out correctly. Personally, I'm really looking forward to that, because it will allow us to start figuring out what routings are available and what routings are bookable on a single one-way bound without having to call in all the time. So I'm excited for that one. After that, being able to change awards online. My initial impression of that is, would I be correct in saying that it would also be like, when you make changes, the options that you're presented will also be likely some of the simpler options, rather than potentially a more complex change that you can make to your itinerary? For those of us in this community, especially, who like to potentially rely on schedule changes and get some cool products along the way, sounds like full customizability. And that was also another feature that I had mentioned initially, right? The full customizability may still be afterwards.
Well, sorry, I'll just take an issue with this notion that today the shopping is producing only simple results. The shopping, in fact, is producing a very deep result set, the deepest, or at least tied for the deepest in the entire alliance, and I think amongst the world of FFPs. And so, the depth that you can expect from a change exchange should be similar to the depth that today is returned in a search, for booking a new ticket, because the functionalities are being designed to effectively mirror one another as closely as possible. But I'm happy to do a competition, and we can pick, 5-star programs or 10 FFPs and put the search engines head to head and see how many results come back. And especially on more complex O&Ds to remote cities. But I'll just take issue with that characterization of simple.
I think that's fair, Mark. I think the 150-ish search results that we're seeing puts most of the competition to shame. So if we can expect that to show up once we have the ability to change awards as well, I think it'll be great to have that on, let's say, a one-way or round trip. To the point, though, about multi-city, some of the beyond the simple multi-city, actually wanted to emphasize on this, because from the very beginning, I think it was something that our community was really taking a lot of, we were really excited for that, because eventually, if we don't have to call in to book those, especially for myself, I'm also very excited to be able to play around with that feature. Now, last time when you guys spoke with Anshul, you mentioned a little bit of challenges with the partner who is making that happen in the background, and that just like there were more challenges than you had expected there. So is there still a commitment to making that happen, or is it more of a wait and see approach?
Well, I'm happy to comment on that. You're talking specifically about the stopover functionality, or something broader than that?
in Mark's words, the ability for us to use the exact same tool that the agents use to book, highly complex itineraries. I think it was called custom routing.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, is it something we would like to deliver? Absolutely. I think the timing of that is, let's put it this way, there's a lot of nuance to what the agents are dealing with, usually when they're building some of those itineraries in the background. I think it's definitely something that is kind of a North Star that we want to get to. Mark, I'll let you see if you have any further comments on it. But again, to be honest with you, it comes down to priorities and making sure that we deliver the capabilities that most of our members are looking to get into day in and day out.
Yeah, so as you'll find out over the course of the next hour or so, I'm the aggressive one, Derek is the conservative one, and Pritesh is just right in the middle as our famous Three Bears and Goldilocks, or maybe I'm mixing stories. I can't remember at this point. But yeah, look, the what I was referring to last time, and I'll be quite candid about this, is Amadeus. And Amadeus has a lot of virtues, and Amadeus has some vices. And we've, in this respect, we've pushed them by their own admission, further than any one of their other customers of their, 120 or so airline customers has pushed them. And we are at the limits of what their solutions can provide. Now, the good news is the limits of what their solutions can provide is a lot of cool stuff that works well and doesn't have some of the gaps that some other carriers and points programs have. But the bad side of that is we have aspirations, and our members, particularly this crew, have needs that go beyond where those systems and those functionalities currently allow for. And we pride ourselves on kind of like a work hard, play hard mentality with a partner like Amadeus, where we seek to work very well, but also push them beyond their comfort zone. And that's something that Pritesh's team does 24/7, 365, quite literally. A functionality like that, to be able to provide it in a self-service and have it consistently, reliably work, have it ensure that itineraries can be serviced downline, can be checked in, can handle IROPS, can handle ancillary revenues and attach, and all the other things that we need to think about, correct taxation, et cetera, is something that we need to continue helping them and pushing them on building from a capability perspective.
Okay. Yeah, we certainly appreciate that transparency. I think it was a big commitment at the start, right? To like when the program launched, to say maybe in 2021, 2022, we can kind of see this feature online. We'd certainly love to see it happen, and definitely appreciate the hustle on your part in helping Amadeus along the way. All right, so speaking to this, to the idea of prioritizing different projects, and making sure that the most commonly requested features are brought to life, I did want to touch upon a little bit of the difference between the desktop shopping experience and the mobile app shopping experience. It's obviously, I think it's a pretty strong app that you guys have launched with. There are a few small things that personally, when I'm searching for flights, I'm searching for flights on the app, and then there's one thing I need to do for me that I then need to pop over to desktop to do. For me, that's looking for e-upgrade space on the app. So I'm curious if there is that desire to eventually bring all of the same desktop features over onto mobile, and some of the timelines we can expect around these two platforms too. Because after all, I'm sure you guys know, more and more people are shopping on their phones just for the convenience of it, especially as time goes on.
So Ricky, I'll take this one, and I'll go the route that maybe Derek took a little bit earlier on priorities. And it is one of the features that has been requested quite a lot from quite a lot of people. And one of the things that I'll say that from the time when we launched the new mobile app, Ricky, like you said, we've been introducing more and more things in the app, and by combining both the Air Canada app and the Aeroplan app, we've created this one-stop place for customers to have where they can actually see everything about Aeroplan as well as their bookings and servicing side of things. So maybe what I'll do is I'll touch base on a couple of things that we might have launched in the evolution of where we're going, and is e-upgrades still a part of it, and are we going to work on it? What do the timelines maybe look like? So one of the evolutions is about the seat map, right? If you take a look at where we are with this now and what the customers wanted from a native perspective and where we were and being able to select seats, we've introduced something that was the number one request feature. The other one is, we've allowed sorting and filtering of flights that was another feature that was quite requested by our customers as well. And so you can actually search it by time, by other things that you go in there. And e-upgrades happens to be one of the filters or one of the sorting that we have on our desktop view. What I would say is, I don't know if people on the call know this or not, but our desktop view or the mobile view, you could look at it outside of the mobile app and go onto aircanada.com on your mobile app and still go and do the e-upgrades. It is definitely something that we'll be looking on adding as an evolution to it, but it's something we'll probably take it up in 2022, depending on the priorities. I don't know, Derek, if you want to add anything else there.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see this throughout the live stream. Pritesh and my team were kind of joined at the hip for a lot of this work, which honestly is a pleasure every day. But the one thing I might add on e-upgrades specifically is I know that our teams are actually looking at a number of things that we're not particularly thrilled about in terms of what the experience looks like. And one of the other things for everyone to kind of bear in mind is we're really operating the airline kind of at full speed for the first time in our new reservation system. So you heard Mark talk about Amadeus. Our airport agents are operating in the customer management application, which is our departure control system. And then the reservation system really for the first time is kind of hit critical mass. There's not the legacy bookings from our old reservation system. So all that to say, there's a lot of things that we're trying to look into now to say, okay, we did things a certain way. Is it time to maybe revisit them and improve the experience even on the existing channels that we built? But to Pritesh's point, are there things that we actually want to build into some of the channels that we have never really contemplated before? So maybe just worth pointing out that this is very much an active dialogue because, frankly, we know that e-upgrades are probably one of the most popular items leveraged on our digital channels. And frankly, we want to encourage members to use aircanada.com and whether in the web view or in the mobile view to take advantage of e-upgrades wherever possible.
That would be great. I think e-upgrades are, super useful, especially with some of the high prices on business class flights that we've been seeing recently, especially last minute. And I will say, even on desktop, the fact that e-upgrades kind of exist almost on a separate little mini site of their own, personally, I think it's an area that could be sort of folded in to be a more unified experience, right? In terms of the overall booking flow. Yeah, even perhaps along the booking flow, I'm sure that's an idea that you guys have been considering too.
I can tell you that was considered when we were cutting into the new PSS and it was de-scoped for timing, but it's a perfect example of something that would make a ton of sense. And especially now that we have the ability for members to request their upgrade at any time. So it's like complete your booking and request the upgrade right away.
Yeah. And if you're leveraging Aeroplan points correctly, that's the only way you should be using e-upgrades, that instant upgrade with latitude economy, obviously. All right, so yeah, thanks for shedding some light on that. It's great to be able to look forward to closer integration with the e-upgrade side. And I was wondering, on the topic of the digital experience, are there any new features that you guys might like to share or hint at that are coming up? Speaking of priorities, what are some of the more pressing priorities that you guys have been working on, whether it's Aeroplan or just on Air Canada website and booking regular flights as well?
I'll point one out actually, and it's something that we've been slowly but surely rolling out over the course of the last few months, is seat maps with our other airlines and the ability to select with our airline partners and the ability, or even airline, the ability to select seats. So I think we've got somewhere in the neighborhood of about 30 carriers now that are available for seat selection. Some of them all cabins, some of them just the premium cabins. But what we're trying to do effectively, the goal is to get to the point where We've got full seat assignment functionality, particularly with our joint venture partners, who have the Lufthansa Group, with United, with Air China, eventually, hopefully, with anything that you can buy online with Air Canada, you can do seat assignments. It will take a while to get all the way there, just because there are a few partners that are in proprietary systems or have unique setups. But I think we can get kind of 80-20 of seat assignments, probably over the course of the next year or so. But it's happening progressively. So every few weeks or month or two that passes, there's more that's loaded.
And then maybe I'll chime in as well, Ricky. Something that you might get into a little bit later is, the travel ready hub that we have built out for our customers. We realize that it can be really challenging and frustrating sometimes for customers to go get the latest information, because these policies and regulations and the rules are changing quite a bit almost on the fly. And what we built out is a travel ready hub that allows you from, I think of it from three perspectives. One is like, making sure the information is as updated as possible that we can. In that relation, we've partnered with Sherpa to provide one of the UIs that can be either mapped in a format that is really easy to understand for our customers. And as far as we know, that a lot of this information is quite accurate, and it gives you direct links into any documentation that you have to fill out, any forms you have to fill out, and any quarantine if there is any testing requirements. All of that is on a single page, easy to read. The great thing about that tool also is that it also allows connections. So if you're transiting via connection, you can actually find out, what are the rules for that as well, or the policies for that. So that is one from a travel ready hub perspective. A second one is we're making things easier and easier, and and we're adding more and more countries to the list of allowing customers to upload their travel documents a little bit ahead of time. So today, during the check-in window, you can for certain countries, you can upload your testing documents or the health documents, and based on the requirements, you can get pre-approved, and it's one less step to do at the airport to get those approved. One good feature that's coming in, I would say in about a couple of weeks, is we're going to introduce that into our managed booking section. That means you'll be able to upload the documents 2 to 3 days ahead of your travel date, allowing you a little bit more peace of mind that, look, my testing has been approved. I don't have to worry about it within the 24 hours and worry about it. So I think from that perspective, travel documentation and the upcoming feature will be really, really well received by our customers. And the third one I would say is that, we just recently launched something called the tipping point, or a Google Map sort of a solution that allows customers to basically see what countries are open, how many points do I need to travel there, or what are the dollars that I need. And it's a quite interactive format that allows you to plan something by looking at destinations, themes, things that are open to Canadians. So we've applied that sort of a filter, allowing customers to even find destinations that they would like to fly. So those are the three things I would say from a travel readiness we're doing on our behalf to make customers as ready as possible and make it friendlier for them in the web of different rules that are out there.
It does sound like three very exciting, very useful features, especially during this climate around travel right now. I have noticed actually already. I was traveling to the US about 2 weeks ago, and I was invited to, I think, either send a text message or probably upload my proof of vaccination. For the US, it would just be an antigen test, right? And kind of, since that is an airline requirement, like the airlines enforce it on behalf of governments, if I'm understanding correctly, that's the time from doing it at the check-in counter, because if you were to then approach check-in, it would just show that you've already been approved your documents.
Correct. And as we can get this, like I said, into the managed booking section, by uploading even ahead of time, it really takes away the extra pressure or tension that you have in the 24 hours that you'll be traveling. So it allows you basically, with some of the other work that we'll be doing from an airport's perspective and process perspective, also make it easier for customers who have filled out, and not have to line up in certain areas. So that is also something that the team is looking back to see how, once we introduce these features, how can we make their process easier at the airports as well?
Okay, that sounds really awesome, really exciting. I know we have a few commenters here in the chat who are also, glad to have that feature on hand. I certainly am happy because uploading documents in advance to avoid onerous quarantine requirements is something that I would really benefit from. Those of you who've been watching my YouTube channel for a long time will know the story there.
Yeah. I'll add actually maybe one thing kind of related, but directly related to Pritesh's comment, but kind of related to your story as well. One thing we've been working with the startup community on, as well as some established players in the testing diagnostics world, is making the whole testing thing much easier, because we believe that, at least for some countries, testing is here to stay for the foreseeable future. So I'm not going to break any news right now, but stay tuned in the next coming weeks for some updates on us. But we've got something pretty darn cool in store. And we're focused on really three things. So as we think about testing, first of all, we want to make for a lot more predictability. I've heard and I've experienced myself so many stories of people going for a test and not knowing exactly when it's going to come back, and stressing about it, even if, for example, it was a guaranteed 24-hour or a guaranteed 6-hour test or whatever. I've heard a lot of horror stories about testing not coming back and the guaranteed time. And most testing doesn't actually have a guaranteed time associated with it. And that creates a lot of angst before you're about to go on a trip, or you're in a foreign country and you need to head back to Canada. There's the strict 72-hour rule, et cetera. So number one, we want to make it a lot more predictable. Number two, we want to make it a lot easier. I consider myself a pretty expert traveler. I actually had to cancel a trip to Italy and instead go to France a few weeks ago because, apparently, a lot of labs in certain Italian cities close at 11 a.m. And if you're leaving on a Sunday and you can't get to the lab much more before that, you just can't get a test, right? It's hard. In other countries, it can be hard to understand where and how to go get a test or to book a test, because medical services tend to be different from country to country, how you pay them, how you pay for them, how you find them, et cetera. So number two, we want to make it a lot easier. And number three, we're also focused on price, because, maybe for the first trip back, people are willing to splurge, but I've heard, again, stories of 250 Swiss francs for a test. And I've heard stories of, $300 in the US for a test, or, et cetera, et cetera. And so those are the three things we're focused on: predictability, convenience, and price, in that order. As I said, we've been working on solutions, and we've got a few that are just almost ready to be announced, but they'll fit in very nicely with the technology that Pritesh and his team are launching, so you can get the test and then very easily send us the details of the test to have a better, quicker experience at the airport.
I'm really looking forward to seeing that being rolled out, because there's been other airlines around the world have done some things with testing where they offer, partnered labs in some of the destination cities they serve around the world. Given the innovation that you guys have shown is possible within Pritesh's team on the digital side, we have high hopes and expectations for hopefully addressing all of those three pain points when it comes to testing, and thereby incentivizing more travelers to book with AC. Because right now, no matter who I book with, it's like the same issues. If I'm going to have an easier time going with Air Canada somewhere internationally on the testing side, that just might make up for, maybe if it doesn't compare to, let's say, Etihad, in terms of the onboard product, that might just influence my decision.
Well, our approach of testing, and certainly my encouragement to the team was, let's skip the generation. Obviously, things are moving very quickly. So when we say generation, it's a matter of months, but let's skip the generation of solutions that most of the industry have given so far. Let's go to the next thing, because by the time we get to Christmas, March break, that generation just won't cut it anymore. And we put some of the best and brightest talent we have from the Aeroplan partnerships and business development team on the subject along with our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jim Chung. And anyway, I look very much forward to us being able to share details on the testing side. Yeah, I won't take the bait on it.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to product.
I will. Let's say this. So we love all of our partners, but I will say I do believe, for example, our signature seat compares many of the other products out there, and I certainly know that our signature lounge compares favorably to any other business class lounge and most first class lounges out there. So actually, if you look at the signature product in totality, especially when we're able to fully bring it back, then I won't pick on any competitors or partners in particular, but I will say we are actually very proud of where we stand from a long haul premium perspective.
I look forward to finding out for myself. And yeah, of course, you'll have further opportunities to talk up the product once we get to that stage about the new area that you're overseeing in terms of onboard products. Wrapping up travel readiness, though, I did want to quickly touch upon Pritesh's first point that he mentioned, which is providing the information to people when it comes to the ever-changing travel restrictions, especially so fast-changing. That's a challenge that we've had as a travel resource, trying to equip people with the knowledge. I'm curious, from the industry's perspective, do you view it as the airline's responsibility, as to be that final point of information for people before they fly, in terms of all of the ever-changing entry requirements, quarantine testing, proof of vaccination, mixed vaccines? Do they count? Do they not count, depending on the destination? Uniquely Canadian problem, pretty much. What's the responsibility of the airline to fulfill that information, and how are you guys going about it? I know Sherpa is one part of it. Is there more to it as well, in addition to the API?
Maybe I'll start it off, and then Derek, there's a couple of things that your team does as well, so it might be a good point to talk about the emails that go out in addition to that. So Ricky, what I'll start off, and either Mark or Derek can contradict me, but our job is to make sure that we make it easier, one-stop place for our customers to find the info, and once they get there, it's easy to tease out the information that's there, right? They don't have to search through like a whole long page of things to figure out what is the quarantine requirements, if there are any, what are the forms I need to fill out. So from that perspective, we're always making sure that, from an experience perspective, it is easier to read and easier to understand. From an information update perspective, what we're doing also is making sure that we're consistently collecting feedback, whether it's from our customers, our call centers, and anywhere else, and making sure that if there is inaccurate information anywhere, we have a direct link back into Sherpa to make sure that those inaccurate pieces of information are updated really correct promptly. Perfect example is, recently, just yesterday, when the NOTAM for Morocco was announced, where we have a ban for 30 days. You'll notice that we were quickly updated our Travel Ready Hub with the announcement of that. An email was sent out to the customers as well. In addition to that, if you search for it, you would see the results come up for that destination, pretty accurately as well. So having said all of that, the emphasis, I would say, I want to emphasize that, customers should always still check the government website for guidance, because, anything could happen where things change on the dime, like it happened yesterday, like, over the weekend. I wouldn't say that, we're going to be 100% accurate all the time, because these rules and some of the guidelines are changing, almost evolving almost daily, weekly sort of a thing. So my recommendation is that, come to our site, you get it one stop, and then, always double check the government website of wherever you're flying to make sure that you've got absolutely the correct information. And then maybe Derek, I don't know, mention a little bit about the emails as well, and and Mark, if you've got other thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'll just quickly, because I suspect Mark has a good hot take on this one. My perspective is, Do the airlines own that information? Are they the arbiters of the truth there? No, they are not. But if we want to be successful in getting customers out traveling again and making them feel safe and capable to do so, we have to be out in front and communicating a lot of this. And what Pritesh was alluding to was the fact that, on my team, I mentioned some of our, campaign operations. We're delivering a lot of the emails and notifications that are going out to members. And, I can tell you there's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put into those communications. And frankly, now that we have Sherpa, we're hoping that we can, actually leverage a lot of our PNR data in a much more efficient way to be more targeted in what the customer is actually getting a couple of days in advance of departure. Maybe the one other thing I'll say, and I've been thinking a lot about this over the past couple of days because my mom has come up to visit Canada. She's Canadian. She came up for the first time in like 18 months. And everything was a stress. How do I go get my PCR test to enter Canada? And she lives in the United States. So it's not particularly difficult to get a PCR test or a molecular test in the US. And, to be honest with you, I think one of the things that is just a challenge right now is we don't have good tribal knowledge of how all of this stuff works. Like, where do I go to get my test? Not enough people have traveled where, you can talk to your friend or, a colleague to talk about what their experience has been, how you apply that onto your own experience. So, back to the initial point, I think as much as possible, we just want to be conveying information to our customers so that they get comfortable with it. They get out there and feel confident about the experience, and then hopefully they can, serve as a bit of a buddy as their friends or family members are actually going out and traveling again. So it's a challenging moment in time, but I think it's kind of natural that we're finding ourselves in this position at this point, given how complex everything is.
I think very well said, Jen. This is very important to us, and we recognize that customers look to us, whether we have the accountability or not. We have a duty to take care of our customers, and we want to be able to provide the information and make things as easy as possible because it's the right thing to do. But also, quite candidly, our own commercial interests. We want people to come home from their trip saying, "Oh, that was amazing." Even if the customs line was longer than they wanted, the trip was amazing and it wasn't ruined, based on a difficult journey back home or a difficult journey to the destination, right? So it's in our commercial interests, it's in our operational interests as well. We've got a lot of good people focused on making it better and, knowing kind of every 2-3 weeks we launch something new. Certainly by the time we get to Christmas, we're hoping it's a transformed experience, but even ahead of then, Pritesh talked about a couple of things, Derek talked about a couple of things, but literally we are in 2 to 3 week sprints across kiosk, our messaging, online check-in, content pages, etc., testing to keep rolling out new things. And they should all come together very nicely, hopefully in the late October, early November timeframe, where kind of the sum of the parts of the whole is much greater than the sum of the parts.
Okay, it's great to get that perspective from you guys. I do agree that we'll be living with this reality for the next 3-4, foreseeable future. So, definitely it's important work to be done now at this stage. Quickly then, as we move on from travel readiness, obviously last time you guys had spoken with Anshul, maybe given a bit of a signal that flexible change in cancellation policy may be coming to an end soon, where people may start to, be required to pay either pay a premium to be able to cancel for free or to incur those change in cancellation fees. Now, August 31st came and went, and the decision was made to postpone that deadline over to September 30th. What's the forward-looking view of kind of how that flexible change in cancellation policy is going to be going? Is it just going to be a month-by-month thing? And tying into that, checking in on the airline perspective of recovery of travel, right, over the coming months and years. I mean, we saw a pretty big spike in demand this summer for travel, not necessarily in revenues. I took a quick look at the numbers, right? Mostly because it was leisure travel dominating the demand. So what do you see the patterns playing out over the coming, couple months, couple years?
Hey, Derek, maybe you want to comment on our philosophy with regards to the change and redeposit provisions, and I can maybe talk a little bit about the future forecast.
Yeah, you got it. So, I think it's fair to say there was a lot of discussion about the change and cancel, but many meetings about this topic. And if you recall what we said when we communicated the I think the announcement that we were going to reintroduce them as of September 1st. I think we were pretty clear about the fact that based on member feedback and frankly based on kind of where things are at with the pandemic, we may have to pivot and extend that a bit further out. And I think while we are generally very optimistic about things and the return to travel, and we're seeing very good advanced bookings for the rest of the summer and then into the holiday period, I think we understand the fact that especially for some people who are traveling overseas, there's some uncertainty around whether or not they feel confident about the bookings that they're making. So I don't want to say that it's necessarily going to be a month to month because, to be honest with you, we launched the new Aeroplan program last year, and, change and cancellation, that was a core element of the new branded fare structure that we introduced. So, I think we're obviously eager to kind of take that out for a test drive and kind of see how that weighs into, customers or members' decision making on what type of redemption they're going to be making. But at the same time, we don't want to appear tone deaf in terms of the decisions we're making related to the broader global reality. So I think all that to say, our aim is definitely to close off this period and end things with the flexible change and cancellation period over the course of Q4. But listen, again, we're very aware of what's going on externally. I think you would have seen that we extended the change policy, the flexible change policy on the revenue side, and obviously that factors in for us as well. So I think it's a space that you can expect that there's going to be probably bumps and things are going to be evolving back and forth, but we are eager to kind of end this period and maybe get back to normal, I'd say.
Yeah, and maybe just to comment on, I have to be a little careful because we can't comment on future demand outside of, public releases. But I will say what's enormously clear to us is the desire and the demand to travel is definitely there. It's just the environment is still not, as open and as stable as it needs to be for everybody out there. Today was one of our busiest days since the second week of March last year. Very, very busy day for the operation and for demand. And so, our goal is to do everything possible to ensure, first and foremost, without a doubt, that the system and travel is as safe as it can possibly be. Hence, for example, why we made the vaccination policy decisions that we made coming out of the guidance from the federal government. We can talk more about that. Safety first always. And then what comes next is ensuring that we can deliver a high quality operation. And clearly the ramp back up has had its bumps. Understaffing with airport authorities, with some government agencies, peaks and troughs of demand, even within, the summer, and very changed patterns. Like, for example, customers are checking many more bags than they used to. Just on one route, one major city, I was looking at the numbers, and prior to the pandemic, we had 0.7 bags per passenger, per customer on board checked. And now we're having 1.6, which, and we do a lot of forecasting based on, loading fuel and what kind of plane to send, et cetera, based on things like that, right? So that can make a huge difference, especially on a full flight. So there's also changing in patterns and behaviors. Things are definitely getting better. They're stabilizing, but there is still a ramp back up that needs to happen. There needs to be, more security capacity, more immigration capacity, more, employees at the airport getting baggage carts out of the, parking lot and bringing them back into the terminal for customers to use. All of these little and big things that make for being able to ultimately dispatch aircraft on time and get customers to their destination with their baggage, when we promise to do so. So the good news is the thirst for travel, the demand is unquestionably there. And we're even seeing it, we're hearing it from, segments of business travel as well. It's not just leisure travel, but, people need to feel safe. Destinations need to be open. Hopefully the travel regimes, the requirements for travel need to be, stable and predictable, more so than today. And those are all things that will feed into the rebuild as it continues.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that it's a matter of when, not if, the actual bounce back that we've all been hoping to see and that we've all been anticipating, so-called revenge travel, right? It's about to come. It's not here yet, but sooner or later. Let's briefly have that discussion about the vaccine guidance that came up from Canada, right? I think it was, yeah, all air travelers by fall of 2020 will need to be vaccinated. And Air Canada recently, if I'm not mistaken, you guys also said that your employees need to be vaccinated. I think that came out this week. So was that a no-brainer decision at the executive level, basically, for an airline to make and to basically recognize that, yeah, we all need to get vaccinated in large numbers for the recovery of travel to happen, and so let's do it.
Yeah, so just in terms of customers, we're still waiting on more information. Obviously, the federal government made their announcement a few weeks ago, and they will, in the fullness of time, provide more information on what regulations or requirements or testing, vaccinations, et cetera, will be there for passengers. And so for customers, so we await that, no comment on that, just because, we're waiting ourselves for more information, and I'm sure it will come. In terms of employees, it wasn't a no-brainer in the sense that we spent a lot of time and energy in thinking about it. But I guess you could say, to a certain extent, it was from the perspective of, I go back to safety first always. And, if you think about, for example, why air travel is so safe, it's about the safest thing you can do, in the world. What are the safest things you could do? It's because there aren't just highly reliable systems and processes. There are then redundancies on top of it. And we have these amazing, effective, powerful vaccines. And travel with all of the mitigations like masks, like HEPA filters is safe, but travel with vaccines is even safer. And at the end of the day, for a brand that really believes in safety first always, we looked, our entire executive team, our entire board of directors is vaccinated. And we determined that the way that we could build the greatest deal of confidence and the way that we could provide the safest possible environment for our employees and for customers was by virtue of making this decision. So we don't take it lightly at all, even though we stand 100% behind it. It's a big decision, but we feel we are genuinely convicted that it is the right decision and it leads to the safest possible environment.
Thanks, Mark. That's obviously a touchy topic in some circles, but I think it's important for all of us to get our vaccines as soon as possible and help travel recover along those lines. Now, we're in the interest of time, right? I wanted to get to the section where we talk a little bit about, Mark, the new stuff that you've been focusing on, and maybe you can, maybe Derek and Pritesh have some involvement on that side as well. But basically, you've taken on oversight of Air Canada's onboard product and ground product, right? The lounge experience. So in terms of that side of things, which we haven't spoken too much about here on these past streams, based on the things that you've been working on recently, is there anything that you can share that we can expect to see when we're traveling on Air Canada, maybe as part of the ground experience, let's say over the coming months?
Sure. So I have responsibility for a number of additional things, but it sounds like you're focused on product. So I'll talk a little bit about that. So the way we define product, right, is all the policies, procedures, and spec that we offer customers, whether it's at the airport or in flight, including our catering operations and the menu choices. And programs like unaccompanied minor or our pet programs, et cetera. And we obviously, on all of those things, work hand in glove with the operational team, because it's easy enough for us to design a service or a policy, but it has to be delivered day in and day out. And it's only really good if it's delivered the way we promise it and delivered consistently. I have myself two main goals that I've set, since taking this role to begin. It comes on the fact that we have a number of talented leaders in that space and a lot of cool things we've been doing with product for the last number of years. But the two goals that I've set is, number one, I'd like to see a lot more physical digital integration. And you can already see bits of it starting, like, for example, we load the food menus for in-flight in the app. and they're presented, they're actually downloaded on the device locally in the background. You populate a PNR, we look at the flight, we automatically add flight status tracking, we download PDFs of the menus, and you're prompted to see that while you're in flight and just before the flight. It's a very, very small example. It's a content example, but that's one way we're starting to bridge the physical and the digital experience. Another way, we've launched a pilot on our 737 Maxes to be able to order from the buy on board food and drink menu in economy using the IFE, using the seat back in-flight entertainment systems. There's a lot more we have planned for how we're going to integrate the physical and the digital service world. And as we do it, it will open up new options that before were either just operationally not feasible to do without it, or from a cost perspective, we couldn't do. So I won't give the details because the Dereks and Pritesh's and Andrew Hughes of the world will not be too happy with me after, but good things will roll out over time with that. So that's my first priority. The second priority, which the team, was operating under anyway, but I guess I'm double downing on, is as we come out of COVID, taking a look at what we were doing with product and not just, let's say, blindly re-implementing the spec we had before, but saying, is there, within obviously the constraints of our budgets and our operational realities, is there a better thing we can do? And something I'm very proud of, even though I had zero to do with it, but just to give you an example of that kind of thinking, the a la table ordering in the Maple Leaf lounges and the expanded food selection. I hope we never, ever see a day of iceberg lettuce under a sneeze guard again at a club. And if we do, I hope we never see that day again. And instead, whether it's the Village's ice cream and sliders in Calgary, or it's the salmon pot pie at the domestic MLL in Montreal, which is my single favorite dish now, it's displaced the ice cream, or it's the chicken tikka at the international MLL in Toronto that recently reopened, or it's the deli plate in Paris at the MLL that reopened there just a few days ago, actually. We're hoping for, that's a self-service in Paris. It's not in a la table, but that's just an example of how when we're reintroducing product, we're trying to rethink it. And there'll be more examples of that, rolling out as you'll see us as time goes on here.
Sounds like a la table is here to stay, and I think we can all be pretty on board with that.
Well, I hope so. That, or at least something better than what we had before. So we're still experimenting with a la table, and we want to make sure we can scale it when we have a full lounge, for the whole day. But say no to salads under sneeze guards on a buffet line going forward.
Any comment on Heather here in the chat asks about how these digital transformation, maybe, as part of a larger scale trend towards jobs being automated away. Is there any comments on that, on the staffing level side for the team?
No desire to do that. That's not the mindset that we take when we take on self-service projects. The mindset we take is letting customers do anything they want, however they want, in the channel of choice. So for example, if customers want to book through travel agencies, we make sure our distribution agreements support that. If customers want to call or they want to, go online, we want to make sure that we're providing service levels that support that. But that being said, I'll be very clear. Most customers, most of the time, tell us very clearly they want digital self-service options, and they want it in web, and they want it in mobile, and they want it even in natural language, via a chatbot or something like that, or even in a social channel like Facebook Messenger or whatever have you. And so we have to provide those things. We have to provide those to customers. But what I'll note is we still, are reliant, and we want to free up more time from our people to provide judgment and care in the moment and other kinds of service, which, a one-way self-service change path doesn't do. We all, myself, Pritesh, Derek, spend time at the airports, with customers, talking to our agents. We spend a lot of time talking to our reservations coworkers in particular, and there's tremendous value they can provide, especially if we can unlock some of the time spent on things that they don't need to be doing.
Maybe to build on your point there about chatbots and Facebook messengers, iMessage, those kinds of services, and then bringing it over to a little bit of Aeroplan chatter, right? As we come to the hour, I know you guys have a little bit of extra minutes to stay around after 8 p.m. over there in Toronto. So, obviously, thank you guys for making that time. But we did want to touch upon just a few Aeroplan tidbits. And a thought that just came to mind as we're speaking is, I believe Asia Miles, Virgin Atlantic, Delta, they've got iMessage service, WhatsApp service that can actually tie into the loyalty side and actually make bookings, take secure payments, help customers build itineraries without necessarily having to pick up the phone. Obviously, call center, frictions is something that we've spoken about before with Aeroplan. Is there a view, perhaps over with also integrating with the digital experience side as well? Is there a view to smoothen that out potentially with the use of chat services that I think many people here in the audience today would appreciate?
So maybe I'll start it off a bit there. Ricky, thank you for that question. Everything that we build or we've been building, especially the Aeroplan program that we've built, has been kept in mind from a modular perspective. So what we're starting to do is starting to build something called mini applications that can easily plug. And our integrations are now to a point where now we've started building this, like I said, mini applications that can come together into a larger function. Like say you want to book a ticket or you want to change something. It's divided up into different applications within that to come together to do that larger function. So the long and the short of that is that we've started just dabbling around in chatbot a bit. The APIs are there. The architecture is being built in a way that will allow us to scale into other technologies, and that is essentially where we want to get to. Is it on the near-term roadmap? It's not in the near-term roadmap, as in in the next I would say 6 to 12 months. But it's something that could potentially change a little bit. Derek also mentioned that we're coming really fast into all that travel demand that's coming. There's things that we want to do to make things easier for our customers, and more importantly, what we want to do is do the basics right. So if you get our APIs and the integrations correct, do our mobile app, do our desktop correctly, we can easily then, once we start doing this better, start expanding into other channels. We don't want to start dabbling into something iMessage where, we do it today and then we do 50% good on iMessage, 50% good on mobile app, and neither are good. I'll give you another example is that, you're asking for e-upgrades, right? I'd love to get the e-upgrades in the mobile app before we start doing WhatsApp sort of integration. But again, that's my view, just trying to do something, better at one thing and then scale that up into other technologies. But, I'll leave it with the thought that everything we're building is going to allow us to do that into the future.
Awesome. I think we're all, very much on board with that response. We'd certainly like to have 100%, one thing rather than 50% two things. We just can't help ourselves but to be overflowing with ideas all of the time. Especially yesterday, I just booked an ANA First award on Virgin Atlantic through WhatsApp, and I was like, this is nice. This is nice. So yeah, hopefully you guys don't mind us peppering you all with ideas every time we chat, but that's what we do best. So let's delve headfirst into Aeroplan stuff to wrap up our chat session here. I did want to bring up kind of a recurring theme that we've spoken about many times on the sessions hosted by Anshul and by myself, which is dynamic pricing, right? We've spoken about dynamic pricing. Anshul last time asked the question, what's going on with some of the very, very high prices that we're seeing, especially for near-term travel? We kind of, as a community, accept the answer that under the old program, these flights wouldn't have been available. So it's not really a fair comparison to say the old program was 25K flat, now it's 100K, 180K. The truth is, under the old program for booking last minute, it would have been a blank screen of no availability. So that's something that I think the community accepts and that we can get on board with. I do think, and I personally think this, I think that despite this explanation, right, for members of this community, there's potentially still an optics problem with the dynamic pricing. even for the average traveler who doesn't necessarily understand or care to understand this nuance. Because previously these average travelers, and you guys know some of the often heard criticisms about Aeroplan sort of in the wider mainstream, which is, oh, there's never seats available. That was in the previous generation of Aeroplan. Now it could easily be, right, if somebody's just searching for, let's say, flights from Vancouver, Toronto, sometime in September, if they're trying to book right now, it could easily be Aeroplan's trying to charge me, 100 grand to fly one-way transcon in business class. What's going on with the program? It doesn't seem very useful. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, whether you recognize that. Do you see this as an optics problem? Do you think there's anything that can be done about it? Maybe on the digital channels, some way to differentiate between saver and premium kind of last seat availability? What are your thoughts?
You want to start, Mark? You want me to start? Okay.
Go ahead. I'll be happy to. They've heard. I think the community has heard my answer a number of times. So clearly, I'm doing a terrible job, or speakers are not on. Probably the former. So maybe you should give it a try.
No, Mark, I think I know you've done a great job because I've watched you do it before. I think there's a couple of things that you're calling out there, and maybe one point that I'll make up front, because you mentioned some things about kind of closer in bookings and kind of the immediate travel demand that we're seeing. I will be honest with you, again, this is another topic that is very active for us. And it's in part because, again, we are operating this program at full capacity, literally for the first time right now. So a lot of the things that we hypothesized about, over the course of the past 3 years, we got to cut over, and I think I can say very openly, X and I class were open all over the place. So it wasn't difficult to find a price, at kind of the, even the lower part of the predictable price point ranges that we have. So this is a very active dialogue that we have going on right now with our colleagues in revenue management, because as I know Mark has mentioned before, it's kind of, the yin and the yang of award availability is the loyalty program and the revenue management team looking at that. I will say, again, going back to your first point, close-in bookings is something that we know is a problem. We know it's especially a problem on some of our shorter markets. And I'll be honest with you, it is compounded right now because of some of the operational realities that we're facing day in and day out at our airports. So, we're working very closely with the operations teams to make sure that we're very thoughtful about the capacity that we're putting into market. And obviously that has downstream impacts to how we sell tickets for revenue, but also from a points perspective. But nevertheless, I don't want to kind of skate away from the actual underlying issue of there are things that we can actually do to bring the prices down that, frankly, we have not done just because we've never had to deal with them before. I'll let Mark decide if he wants to get into some of the nuances of those things, but they are very active conversations, especially as it relates to our North American pricing. Because to be honest with you, I would say that there are some places where I'm seeing prices for domestic flights in economy class that are, way too low in some cases, which is, obviously great value for our members, but, there's probably a better way for us to look at how do we reallocate some of that value so that, we're not charging, 6-digit figures for a transcon business class award seat as often as we potentially are right now. So, I mentioned that part of my job title is the word optimization, and frankly, it is a day in and day out effort right now to make sure that we are optimizing it so that we are delivering more value where we know that customers or members are most interested than ever before. So, I'm happy to see if there's any comments that come up based on that, but that's where I would say we are right now.
Well, I think that's well said. I'll make two statements that might sound contradictory, but they're actually work very nicely together. The first is that we can confirm that Aeroplan is delivering better value now than it was prior to the relaunch, and even looking at prior to in the more immediate period prior to the pandemic. So it is a better program from a flight rewards perspective, period, end of story. When you look in the aggregate, it's delivering more value for members at a time when most of our competition is going the other way. But that being said, there are a number of things that we're not satisfied with. And, I think the community knows us well enough by now. We love this stuff. We live, eat, breathe this stuff, dream about this stuff, as does actually our revenue management colleagues. They are just as passionate as we are. And so we see a number of things we want to address in the program. Whether it's availability, whether it's pricing, some policies, certain geographies, still fine tuning what we're going to do with e-upgrades, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Are there areas that things can be improved? Derek just gave a specific example of, flights that on the one hand are pricing at 6,000 miles that before might have been 12,500 versus, a 6-digit transcon. There are absolutely areas that we want to continue pushing on. Derek mentioned, I'll say right now, for example, we're specifically looking, actually this week, we agreed with our RM coworkers last week how we're going to attack it. This week, we're specifically going to start testing some close-in pricing, particularly kind of in the 14-day to 3-day prior to departure, especially where we have excess inventory on a flight, and kind of what's the best way of managing that in points. And I can't, again, speak in specifics just because it's pricing information. So customers will see, as they shop for flights, how that manifests. Maybe one more thing. Digitally, how can we present it and tag it? And there's something in the chat I want to talk about. Somebody brought up scenarios where it's like a 92% mixed cabin and 8% is in the premium cabin and 92% is in the lower cabin. I just want to be very clear about why we show that. We only show those scenarios where the cheapest possible price is that scenario and business class is not available in the majority of it. So let me just give you something for example. Say you want to, and I'll make it easy, I'll make it 2 partner flights connecting. Okay. Say you want to go from Newark to Pisa, and United is open from Newark to Zurich, but only in economy and not in business. And Swiss is open from Zurich to Pisa, but only in business and not in economy, right? A lot of programs won't even show that option. But we made the decision to say, better to show that option than not. Now, if United is available in business class and Swiss is available in business class, you won't see the 92% or the 8% mixed cabin. You'll see the whole thing in business class. But in the scenario I gave, and many programs, it wouldn't even surface that. And so are we just to not show the option? Because obviously economy and economy is not available, and business is not available. It's only economy and business that's available. So we have a choice of showing the option, and at least that way the customer has it presented to them, or not showing the option. But that's a simple scenario, but it is only those kinds of scenarios where for business lowest and for premium economy lowest and for first class lowest, you'll see. For the PY flexible, J flexible, and first class flexible, the business rule around that is we seek to maximize the itinerary that can be in that cabin, regardless of the pricing. And that's essentially, it obviously works differently in economy because you don't have mixed cabins, but that's how we do the branded fare options in the premium cabins. And I still think, we've debated this many times internally, and y'all can tell me in the chat if you disagree. I still think we're far better off showing that option, back to the United to Zurich and Swiss to Pisa. We're far better off showing that option than just not showing anything, because those are the 2 options. It's binary. It either gets shown and it gets shown at 8%, or it doesn't get shown and that option isn't presented to customers, and an expert customer would have to piece that together.
Yeah, I would just add too, I think, again, another good example of something that we had a lot of discussion about as we were designing the new program. And I agree with Mark. I'd be interested to hear if people, don't want to see that flexibility, especially kind of given how we deal with the pricing of some of those mixed cabin award constructs. The one other thing I'm just going to hit on that you mentioned, Mark, which I think is really important to say is, we are actually blessed at Air Canada. I feel like in a lot of, frequent flyer forums and blogs, there's kind of this notion of revenue management is kind of wearing the black hat and being, they're stealing everything away from the loyalty members. We are really blessed with a very collaborative team who are really excited by what we can do with Aeroplan, especially because of kind of the way that we structured Aeroplan as a business within Air Canada. So I just want to emphasize the point that, this is actually a good example of a loyalty program where there's, good alignment between the commercial teams about how we can actually leverage the loyalty program, both on our side, but to deliver a great value to members. So I think that's just a kind of important context to provide as well.
Certainly from the outside, you guys don't appear as constrained by revenue management as some of your closer competitors in Canada. I think we can agree on that. All right, before moving on from this point, right, speaking about some of the way that pricing is displayed, I did also see somebody mentioned in the chat about some other airlines also have dynamic pricing. The way they present it, the way they kind of get the average user to understand what's going on is with these so-called designations between saver level awards and standard level awards. I'm curious if this ever came through in the decision making as to whether or not to say, like, this is the lowest class that you can get as saver, these are different pricing, or was it decided to be go with the range, keep it simple that way?
Our research showed that was more confusing and bad for expectation setting to most people. And so you can just click on the column header and instantly sort things by price. And, one person's saver is another person's standard based on where their willingness to pay is. And so rather than come up with arbitrary, what for us would have been, with all due respect, arbitrary definitions, and also rather than having to come up with something else to brand, because my gosh, we were starting to run out of names for things, all the new features of the new program and everything, we decided just to make it one kind of award.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I think I don't know if there's a perfect way to present this whole concept to like people who are uninitiated. I think you guys have tried with the points predictor tool. And then speaking to some of the points about like close-in pricing and how it tends to fall outside of it, it's good to know that they're being addressed, being worked on, and we'll soon see that pricing, some adjustments on the close-in side, potentially, not far from now. So I know you guys do have to run soon. And again, thank you for making the time. I did want to close with a personal curiosity of mine, and especially since we have Pritesh here talking about the digital experience, I'm really curious as to what Air Canada and Aeroplan's perspective is on blockchain technology and how it integrates with loyalty. Because I know like Singapore Airlines, Emirates, they've been working with blockchain specialists to kind of integrate a much more, let's say, unified experience, like lower transaction time, that kind of thing between earning and redeeming. You can kind of subdivide your loyalty units in lots of different ways and bring on lots of different partners just by sharing this technology. We've written an article over on princeoftravel.com, kind of forward-looking, thinking about the possibilities. In that article, I mentioned that I'd be surprised if it was not on Aeroplan's radar, given the way that they've been trying to build partnerships all across Canada, with different brands and try to make it more integrated into people's lives and people's digital lives. So what's the take on that? Is it something that you guys have been thinking about maybe over the coming years? And if so, is there a prospective timeline of when we can see that kind of, or even personally, what are your thoughts on that kind of technology transforming the way people do loyalty?
Since you mentioned my name, Ricky, I'll start off with maybe a personal comment more than what's Air Canada's take on it. So I'll probably say that look, we look for the right opportunity to do the right thing and the right technology behind it. What I personally believe in is that you don't use a technology just because it's a brand new shiny object or it's cool. To me, innovation or transformation is all about making things simpler for the customer, for our front-facing staff, our agents, whether they're the lobby agents, they're the call center agents. So for me, it doesn't matter if it's a new technology or it's an old technology. It's all about making sure that you're removing the friction, you're making things easier for the customer, and that to me is innovation. That to me is transformation. It's not purely about the technology or the next shiny object. But having said that, for me also, one of the things is, like I said, it's got to be the right opportunity to use the right technology, even if it is trying to test something out. As you guys can imagine, trying to build something that we were trying to do from a transformation perspective, we did the whole PSS program, then launched Aeroplan, and we did that all in a record time from a technology perspective. It would have been really difficult to try something completely new, to be honest, and try to achieve the same results that we did. But is the door closed on newer technologies? I would say no. If the right opportunity presented with the right project, we would definitely take a look at it.
Maybe I'll just add a very good point. I think what Pritesh is saying is what's the actual end user or member benefit, and for us, we should be investing in technologies when there's an end user benefit. The things that you described, Ricky, because the Aeroplan ecosystem, partner ecosystem, is a trusted ecosystem, having a distributed ledger wouldn't affect our ability to do the kinds of things you said. So do we want faster posting of points, for example? Do we want deeper relationships with our partners, especially the marquee new partners like Starbucks and LCBO and more to be announced? Yes, but utilizing blockchain technology wouldn't make that happen, or wouldn't prevent that from happening. It's just not relevant to how our relationship with those players is structured.
Yeah, I guess I'm assuming everyone didn't see me kind of roar with a little bit of laughter when you raised it. And to be honest, it's just because this was a huge topic of conversation as we were looking at the technology for the new loyalty program. And people love to throw around the term blockchain. I echo everything these guys said. And I will say, though, in some of my discussions with some vendors who work in this space, to be honest with you, it's actually a lot of the very kind of unsexy back-end processes that we have in the airline industry that I would actually say are probably most ripe to leverage blockchain. I don't think loyalty is that much of a great use case, other than, I've seen what Chris Flyer has done. I think that's interesting. But if you're going to have a partnership and you're going to leverage blockchain, it requires both, it's two to tango to actually get the work done. And unfortunately, it's not many people who are looking to move into that space right now.
We're interested in value, not 24-hour headlines with cool terms. Like, I'll give you an example. Blockchain could revolutionize the way we do inventory management of parts and billing for parts around the world. Because if you think about it, airlines have to share parts and sell parts to one another, because a plane might have a mechanical in some far-flung destination in Africa or whatever. And so that's a space where having the fidelity of the part, being able to instantly reconcile, et cetera, where trust matters a lot, and where there isn't necessarily trust in the ecosystem without a lot of overhead and processes that are designed over it. But having Starbucks and Air Canada communicate with one another is not an area where trust is an issue. And we have the benefits of things like smart contracts already capable in the way our system integrations layer works with partnerships. So, but we could spend a lot more time on the subject. Maybe in the future we can. We will.
I actually really agree with you guys that much of the kind of antiquated side of aviation, it's like generations old. At some point, it has to change, and lots of possibilities there. But yeah, I really appreciate your perspectives on the topic for sure. Before I let you guys go, any teasers, any hints for future stuff to come, future partnerships? People are really curious about that. People are really loving LCBO, obviously. And then Gulf Air recently made a bit of a splash with a premium product that I've already booked, and I'm excited to take hopefully sometime this fall.
By the way, I have my favorite Indian restaurant in the world. It's named Lanterns in Bahrain. So for anybody planning on doing a stopover in Bahrain or making it your destination, I highly recommend, personally, not on behalf of AC, I highly recommend Lanterns. Hopefully it's still around, because I haven't been to Bahrain in a couple of years, as you can imagine. Here's what I'd say. I'd say more of the same. A couple more marquee partnerships with well-loved, often used brands, and continuing to get deeper and deeper with those brands that we've already announced. We have partnerships with, like Starbucks, more airline partners, more digital features and self-service rolling out. And I did talk a little bit about testing, COVID testing. So stay tuned in that space. Those are the hints I'll provide without hopefully Derek or Pritesh kicking me under the table here.
And Ricky, we obviously want to save some things for you in September. So
Mhm.
it'll be a good pitch opportunity right there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We'll definitely have a lot more to talk about on the Aeroplan side at the September 25th Prince of Travel signature event in Vancouver, JW Marriott Park, Vancouver. It's going to be a pleasure to welcome Derek and Scott O'Leary to chat about Aeroplan, all of the plans for 2021, 2022, and beyond. So really looking forward to having you guys over at the event. And as for today, thank you for taking the time out of your Sunday evenings to join us here for, almost an hour and a half now. Really appreciate it. I think we can all say the level of interaction that we've had with the Air Canada folks is something that we all have come to appreciate. And so once again, thank you for taking the time, and I hope to welcome you guys back on the stream sometime soon.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us. And thanks everybody for sharing your Sunday afternoon with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, Derek, Pritesh. It's been a pleasure. And Derek, I will see you in just about 1 month's time.
I look forward to it.
We'll have a few stories to share over the open bar for sure.
Great.
All right. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks so much, Ricky.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Just me left, guys. I thought I'd go until 5 more minutes, go until 5:30, wrap up some of the sessions that we've had here with Mark, Derek, and Pritesh. Obviously, they've been very generous in making time for us, and it was a pleasure to have them back on the stream. And you guys had some questions lingering throughout that I thought I would get to over these coming 5 minutes or so that we have. Yeah, I think it's really kind of them to hop on the streams every now and then and share what's going on. I'm always curious to see what's going on behind the scenes, and especially with some of the stuff that we talked about when it comes to travel readiness and simplifying some of the frictions and problems that we have around the travel experience these days. I think it's super valuable to get that inside industry perspective. Obviously, on the loyalty side as well, that's much of what we care about. And I look forward to delving into those discussions on stage on September 25th over at the event. Thank you for the super chat, by the way, Dean from earlier. Now, I didn't want to I didn't necessarily think if we would get too meaningful of an answer from the guys when it comes to how long do you think we'll need to wear masks on planes, because it kind of ties into the answer overall on the upcoming trend and patterns in travel overall in 2022 and beyond. But I think we will have to for a long time. It's going to be a reality that we live with for, I reckon 3, 4, 5 years, in my opinion. It might depend on the location, but I can't see it. Yeah, I can't see masks on planes going away for a long time. Okay, so is Mark based in Montreal? I think he's based in Toronto. If you're planning to apply for AC, if anybody has any job aspirations, this probably isn't the right forum, but you can always try LinkedIn and mention that you enjoyed hearing their perspectives on whichever stream you caught them on. Speaking of insights to working in airline loyalty, we'll have an article coming up soon on the website. Jace is going to write about his insider perspective, insider experience back when he was working at WestJet. So that'll be a spicy one, I anticipate. Maybe not as spicy as some of the other pieces he's penned on WestJet, but it'll be fun. I really enjoyed reading it. Buddy pass conversion, right? We should talk about that. So maybe 2 more minutes, but we can go for, I don't know, however long it takes to talk about the buddy pass conversion. It's ending November 30th. So what that means is, first of all of the credit card bonuses that go until November 30th, those are kind of the last few credit card bonuses where it will be possible to convert your buddy pass into 30,000 points. But also if you're going for the TD Aeroplan cards, it is widely reported that it takes them months and months to post the buddy pass, even after meeting the minimum spend. So there's a chance if you were to apply for it now, you'll be cutting it really close. there's a chance that you won't get the buddy pass posted to your account before November 30th, which means that you won't be able to convert it into points. You can still use it. It still has value in its original form, but not necessarily the clear-cut value that 30,000 points represents. Instead, it'll be based on whether or not you travel with a buddy and whether or not you can use the buddy pass in its original form. CIBC and American Express, though, they post the buddy pass pretty consistently right after you meet the minimum spend, sometimes I think even before the statement posts. So if you do want a buddy pass now and you do want to use it to boost your balance of Aeroplan points, your best bet is to go with CIBC and American Express cards. That's going to be the CIBC Core card, the Small Business card, and the American Express Core and Premium and Small Business cards. Yeah, Trion, thanks for tuning in. You're a solo traveler. You're sad that the buddy pass conversion is ending. Yeah, that's a very reasonable position to take. I think most solo travelers or most people who don't fly economy are not going to be happy about this. But hey, I think it's better that we, had the opportunity at all in the first place, because it wasn't really an official thing. It was just quietly introduced through us, I guess, to tell you guys that you can actually do this. It was just a quiet thing on the side. The banks never advertised it. It was never an official thing, and it was never going to be a permanent thing, as Mark and Scott have confirmed on previous streams too. Will you consider doing a virtual event similar to the Vancouver event? Darrow, I guess. You're looking at it. We're doing virtual events every weekend. I think it's been really a lot of fun that people really enjoy tuning into. You'll recall that I had briefly paused these in the first half of 2021, but it's a lot of fun and it's decided to restart them. Would a virtual conference, like a longer event, a full day, be of value to people? Maybe to some people, I think. But I also think that so much of the fun that we have at events, especially in this space, is in person and actually getting to form those connections with all of the other attendees at a single venue, at a single occasion, because you really don't get that if we do a virtual conference and there's attendees on Zoom. It's not quite the same. So to your question, I think we'll definitely continue doing these streams. We're about to set up a dedicated events page on the Prince of Travel website, so you can actually keep track of everything that's going on, keep track of all of these streams, keep track of all of the member-only streams that we do for our members, as well as in-person events such as September 25th in Vancouver. By the way, for that one, we're at about 75% capacity. We are looking forward to getting together about 4 weeks from now, trying to swing a few more prizes for attendees. And also we did have to contend with, we do need to check for proof of vaccination based on the most recent guidance from the province. Otherwise, we also, we remain flexible in terms of that. We're obviously keeping an eye on the COVID situation, but I'm hopeful that things will work out well. All right, I'll hang out for a bit longer and answer some of these questions here, but then I'll pop off, in a couple of minutes time. So why is TD so slow? It just seems to be just the way they do things. They've always, since Buddy Pass conversion was on, TD has been the slowest every time. Eric, the question is, will CIBC up their game after Amex and TD? You would think so, but then again, CIBC has always been the more conservative and the least prominent of the three financial partners for Aeroplan. So I actually don't think it's a given that they will raise their offers. Even if they do, I would say expect it to be, based on a 12-month spending, spend your way to the bonus, rather than, let's say with TD, you can get the full bonus after $1,000 spent. That's fairly generous on TD's part. Too bad they take so long to post the Buddy Pass. I don't think it's deliberate on their part, honestly. I don't think it's they're making you wait so that you don't cancel as soon as you make it. I just think it's one of those technical limitations that banks always have because they're banks, and especially Canadian banks. And I mean, from their perspective, it's going to be like, well, we're giving you the buddy pass 5 months from now, all the same. Why are you in such a rush, right? And the buddy pass conversion being unofficial doesn't really play into that. That's my take on it. I think most things where it can be tempting to say that, you know, banks are like nefarious in some way, it's actually better explained by their lack of competence. For viewers who got their COVID shots in other countries, what was your process of porting it over to Canada? That's a great question. I will hopefully have an answer for you soon because I actually haven't done it yet. I just haven't needed to like port it over to Canada because when I'm traveling, I can just show them my two first shots and it's fine. But for the BC vaccine passport that's coming soon, yeah, I imagine I'll need to port it over, and then I'll certainly, you know, have an answer, have an update for you guys before the fall, because that's when the whole thing's being implemented. So yeah, they took the $5.99 annual fee and the first statements. Look, if we're still talking, yeah, like trying to find a reason for TD being slow, it's really just I think in the grand scheme of things, it's not necessarily a priority for them. You can call in, kind of complain, see if you can get some compensation, but I don't think that'll actually help you get the buddy pass any faster. Sorry to say that. I know most people who've gotten the cards from TD have been a little bit frustrated by that. All right, and then yeah, if there's nothing else, just quickly thinking back to the past week, Aeroplan, obviously Aeroplan and Gulf Air, a little bit under, like a little bit of a low-key partnership, I'd say. But if you actually look at Gulf Air's product, they're very, very, very good in business class. I just wish that they had a stronger kind of route network, because right now they fly from London, Bahrain, and then Bangkok, Manila. And then that's kind of where their Dreamliners with the good business class operates. So it's a bit limited, but I certainly hope, I think actually 1 Mile at a Time posted this week that they were hoping to launch flights to New York, which would make things very interesting indeed if we could do Gulf Air Dreamliner business class all the way to the Middle East with Aeroplan points. So that's the partnership that was announced this week. We tried to tease out some details from Mark. Obviously, Derek teased that there would be more details to come in September, but Mark had previously said that that the most exciting partnership for him is yet to come. And if you notice, every time I'm writing about these new partnerships, I always conclude by saying, I have a feeling the best is yet to come. And that's because they keep teasing me. And so I'm just teasing you guys in turn. In terms of what that partnership actually will be, let's just say that I feel like it'll be a fellow Middle Eastern carrier. Because that's, you know, the question is, what could be more exciting than Etihad Airways, right? Obviously, it's got to be something of a very high caliber. Do you think Aeroplan will extend again? Daro, I don't really know what you're talking about here. If you're talking about the cancellation policy, I think they might extend to October 31st. But, you know, you heard it from Derek. They do intend to sunset that, to bring it to an end sometime this fall and get people back into the groove of paying the regular change or cancellation fees or paying the premium with points to be able to cancel or change. So I wouldn't expect it to last beyond 2022 unless, you know, Delta variant, whatever it is, makes a very nasty return. Unless things take a turn for the very nasty, I don't see that cancellation policy being extended. I think I'll wrap it up there, guys. It's been a good hour and a half of Sunday afternoon stuff. Next weekend, I will be on the US East Coast, so no stream probably because I'll just be I'll be a little bit busy. But the following weekend, 2 weeks from now, I hope to have on another special guest, someone you guys know well, someone whose work I introduced to you in previous Travel and Chills. and someone who will be at the Vancouver event too in September 25th. So I'm talking, of course, about Mr. Canadian Cow himself. We've been speaking. I want to have him on the stream just so that he can share with you, so you guys can meet the brains behind the operation who can make that Canadian Cow tool such a powerful, useful tool for all of us. And yeah, like I'm looking forward to having the stream on, having him on the chat, and just understanding like how did he make that happen? How is he managing to save all of us, hours and hours of time as we plan our Aeroplan journeys? I myself saved like several hours earlier this week when I was rejigging one of my previous Aeroplan trips into a new ticket. But yeah, that's the plan for 2 weeks from now. Next week we'll take a little break, but you'll see me as always on the YouTube side, on the website, over on Instagram, the usual places. Hopefully catch some of you over in the JW Marriott Vancouver as well. Quick hint here, if you've attended our previous events, we might have a little bit of a deal for you. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, we'll talk soon. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys all enjoy the stream today, and good night.